Okay, we are ready with the last video of the Week 12 test. This is question number 5, Concept 10.1c. And the C means you've seen this topic on 2 tests already, so this is the last testing opportunity, the last regular week testing opportunity, but it's not your last opportunity to show you that you know this. You can always come back to me after you've watched this video and watched some others and talk with some friends and get some help, get a little tutoring, ask me some questions, whatever that all looks like. Talk to your dog. Doesn't matter. Then you can come back and say, okay, now I understand how to do equations that are 2 steps with rationals. I'd like to take another test. I want to show you what I know. So this problem, let's move on to the problem itself. This problem has a couple things that students don't like. Students don't tend to like working with fractions, and they don't like working with mixed numbers. So our first step is going to be to get rid of those things. And we're going to start right here by changing this negative 19 1/2 into a fraction. And I know I said we don't like necessarily working with fractions. We're going to get rid of the fraction as soon as we get rid of the mixed number and make it into a fraction. So we've got negative 19 1/2. And we want to change that to a mixed, or excuse me, from a mixed number to a fraction. So the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to remember that process, which is, this one happens to be negative, but the process is take the whole number, multiply it by the denominator, add the numerator. The fraction part doesn't come in until the end, or the negative part doesn't come in until the end. I'm recording this on a morning and I'm just not quite awake. So the negative comes in at the end. So we have 19 times 2, that's 38, plus 1 more. We're going to want to make all that negative when we're done. 38 plus 1 is 39, and now we can bring in the negative. And so negative 19 1/2 becomes negative 39 halves. Remember, we don't lose the denominator. We have to keep the denominator because we've changed it from a mixed number to a fraction. So let's go back and rewrite our problem without the mixed number but with the fraction. And you'll notice when I wrote this part, I went ahead and added the opposite instead of subtracting. I'm going to find that makes it easier. Okay, the next step, we're going to get rid of the fractions. And we're going to do that by multiplying both sides by the same thing. Remember, as long as you multiply both sides of an equation by the same amount, they cancel out. In this case, the 2 times the 2 cancels out. In this case, the 2 times the 2 cancels out. I should be more clear on that. As long as you multiply both sides by the same thing, it stays equal. Here, it happened to cancel everything out. And we end up with 3 times 4x plus negative 5 equals negative 39. And now all the fractions are gone. Let's pause for a minute. Let's just enjoy the fact that all the fractions are gone. And now we're ready to distribute. So we've got 3 times 4x, 12x, plus 3 times negative 5, negative 15 equals negative 39. We are going to add 15 to both sides because we want to cancel this out. Negative 15 plus positive 15, that cancels all the way out, which means over here we've got 12x equals, and this is the place where you really want to keep track of those negatives. In fact, I'm going to go back. All right, we had a negative here and a negative here, a negative here and a negative here. We had a negative, we have a negative. When I corrected these tests, a lot of people made the mistake. They had negative 39. They added 15. They got positive 24. They forgot about the negative. It's still there. You got to keep track. Gotta. Don't let Mrs. Slovani know I talk like that. You have to keep track of the negatives. So don't forget those negatives because that makes a huge difference when you do this last step. Because in this last step, we're going to divide both sides by the coefficient. we get x over here. There's our big 1. Remember, we keep talking about man, oh man, I'm glad I'm teaching math, not grammar. We keep talking about the fact that you get a big 1 right here, and you know that you did the correct thing because that big 1 times the x gives you an x. 1 times x is x. And negative 24 divided by positive 12 is negative 2. And there's that last negative to keep track of. Now, if you want to find out, did I do this correctly? Remember, you're not being graded on whether you check your work, but checking your work means if you do get it wrong, you'll know it before you turn it in. So let's check our work. 3/2 times 4 times negative 2 minus 5. Does that all equal negative 19 1/2? So 3/2 times 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. I'm going to switch to adding the opposite, so plus negative 5. Does that equal negative 19 1/2? 3/2 times negative 8 plus negative 5 is negative 13. Does that equal negative 19 1/2? We would go ahead, make that 13/1. We would do 3 times negative 13 is negative 39. 2 times 1 is 2. Does that equal negative 19 1/2? And if we go back, remember when we changed that negative 19 1/2 to a fraction, it was negative 39/2. So yes, that is all correct. And we can be happy. Yay. All right, so take the time to look this over and match up your test against it, and then come back with any questions you have. All right, I'll see you in class.